What is happening, guys? Steve Mayeda here in Austin, Texas, and we have a video again on social dynamics for you. Guys, if you want to get out there communicating with people and having a good life, having the relationships you want, we got a lot here. So this is going to be a technical video mapping out how do we talk about a personal tragedy, something that is negative to somebody that we just met. Is that going to kill a conversation and so on? And the easy answer here is it's not. So if you're interested in that, let's do it. What I want you guys to understand fundamentally is that if you have something in your life that you feel you cannot talk about, I can show you how to talk about it. You can do it. It can be great. You should always be proud of who you are, and we're going to get you there. So this actually comes from our Men's Development Excellence group, where a gentleman had experienced a pretty bad thing. So he was hit by a car, and then as he was waiting for the helicopter to pick him up, another drunk driver hit that helicopter. And so, that just made his wait time longer of getting himself fixed. Anyway, it's a major, major tragedy that happened in his life. He then had to get taken by ambulance, and this could have caused more of a problem with him. But it's like, how do we talk about this? Well, first off, let's get back to this. So we have a born to be philosophy when it comes to connection. So a lot of guys talk about how we gain popularity in society or how we get people to like us in society, basing that model off of society. So society likes to talk about positive things. Society likes to talk about, winning or being on top or being at the top of society, and we want to achieve those things. Pickup was pretty amazing at this. Different philosophies of men's advice are still into this. Things like that I see in the red pill, a lot of it has to do with power and status. Not in the same way in pickup, but my main thing is I've always wanted men to be able to talk about their lives, and proven over the last 12 years that this works. I mean, if you watch speeches and talks that I gave in 2008, 2009, and on, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about guys being able to bring up that they're drug addicts, that they've been arrested. They've been arrested for child abuse in the initial conversation with a woman, and be able to make this work. Now, this isn't about manipulation or tricking or anything like that. I don't want it to come across like I could have nothing, or I could be this terrible person and win somebody over through lying. It's that I'm going to be this person who may have wreckage in my past, and we all kind of do to some degree, but how do I make that better? How do I make that come across better? How do I learn what attraction and seduction is really about, instead of buying into all these different things? So where I want us to start with this is understanding that, yeah, society has a preconceived notion of negative stuff, okay? And it's not really that bad. It's actually a great story. My friend Juan, he lost his arm this summer. I talk about him a lot. A great dude, jiu-jitsu practitioner, professional fighter, awesome and amazing in so many ways, and still competes with one arm. But he lost his arm in a tragic accident. It was really terrible. And when you hear his story, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I actually think in some ways it made people feel more connected with Juan. In fact, for me, it absolutely did. I was like, oh God. And I told Juan right away, I'm like, hey dude, tragedy is the best thing. And he's like, dude, I'm on it, man. I get it. I'm gonna live life to its fullest, all this sort of stuff, yada, yada, yada. In this situation, when you had a tragedy in your life that may be bad, and this is a particular one, meaning that it happened to you, okay? There's other tragedies where it was my choice that created this. And they're kind of two different things, but they're gonna follow the same model. All I need is for somebody to understand that, and I need them to understand what it means to me, and I want it to project a value, okay? So I want to encompass that in how I talk to people. And just to repeat, I want it to be what it means to me, right? Like what is that story? I want them to understand that, and I want it to represent a value. So really it's those two things. What is my story? Can you understand my story? And how does that represent a value? So because value is kind of the most important thing here, I'm gonna start with that. So when I'm talking to somebody, let's say I'm on a date, I could say something like, how did you know what gave you meaning in life? Or how did you know what you really valued? Or how did you know when you gave up on yourself? That could be a negative too. But the important thing is I'm getting to a point with a woman that is very deep. The part of her that is really going to feel and decide, and I'm not talking about literally deciding, but to to attach herself to a man. This is really an important quality, and this is what deep rapport is all about and why it's such a useful thing. So when we get to this, just know you're going to actually start with a general idea and concept of the value. And for the gentleman asking this question, you're on Men's Development Excellence, you can look at F69 or Instant Connection. If you're in public, you can download the Instant Connection course for free, and I would advise you to do that because it'll tell you about finding out that value thing, that general concept. That's what we call it, the general concept that we need to start our conversations and lead them in the right direction. So we're basically saying, like, you know, how did you know, let's start with the negative, let's go with that direction. How did you give up on yourself at a certain point in your life? And that person's like, whoa, why are you asking me that? And again, you're gonna get all sorts of answers. I talk about this in many, many videos. There might be confusion, there might be advice back to you, there might be something like a direct answer, there might be like, I don't wanna talk about that, which is easy because then you don't talk about it, you just apologize and move on. But for literally the first three of basically like answer it like, oh, with my marriage, or confusion back might be like, I'm not sure what you're asking. Or if you get advice back going like, man, well, I'm glad you believe in yourself now, or something like that. You're basically gonna tell your story. All right, and you're gonna tell your story in a skilled way. This is where rapport cycling has, you know, merit, and it's a teachable technique. The expression is you. The value is you. The technique is the rapport cycle that we need to get skilled in so that we can express ourselves. Okay, so basically we could say something like, well, look, you know, I don't mean to go too crazy, but whenever I meet somebody, I like to ask deep questions about things that have meaning in my life. And actually, I'm just gonna bypass here how I came up with rapport cycling, came up with a very similar story in Las Vegas in, I think, 2007. Okay, and so that's how long rapport cycling has been around. But I was with my friends. I'm going to tell this story because it encapsulates it. I was with my friend Ed and Alex, and there was a lady talking to us. She was beautiful, man. She was in her 30s. She was, you know, like 33, 35, something like that. Just amazing looking, but very confident too. So she wasn't like a 20-year-old walking around in Vegas. We were at the Hard Rock back when the Hard Rock existed, at the Circle Bar. Amazing spot. Met beautiful people there, beautiful people there. But basically, we were talking to her, we were telling all these stories about ourselves, and she said, hey, man, cut the shit, guys. I get it. You know, I really want to talk to you. And she demanded, she immediately took a stand. She said, I really want to talk to you about what has meaning, because that's who I surround my life with. You know, when I was 27 years old, I got in a car accident, and the medic, when I got in the car accident, was saying, man, she's not going to live. And I realized what that was, and I made a commitment to myself that if I was going to live, I was going to live in the best possible way and surround myself with the best people. So what is that to you? And she challenged us. She said, what is that to you? What is living your best life? Let's have that conversation. And immediately we were put in a place where we had to be ourselves. The posturing of social whatever conditioning went out the window, and I was like, holy shit. I talked to my buddy Alex afterwards, and he's like, that's what qualification is. And we're all like pickup guys talking about this. And I was like, holy shit. And that's when we started to structure what rapport cycling was. Even before that, I was keen, big, in how I knew Alex. How I knew all these guys was I wrote stacks for them. And it was using their stories and talking about things which were maybe unfavorable to talk about that you could use to make connections. But this lady put it into a perspective. And so when we say something like that, you have to be, well, you don't have to be, but it's good if you're proud of who you are. And in talking about this, you will gain pride in who you are. You should never hide from yourself. Never, never. You can always make a connection. Okay, if somebody doesn't like you for who you are, then you shouldn't be with them. But it's your job to show who you are and allow them the opportunity to choose that. That's the only technique. If somebody rejects you, it's because you didn't show yourself well enough, or you were not qualified to be with one another. You need to accept that hard truth. Okay, so back to this. You say something like, man, when was the last time you gave up on yourself? So, I don't want to ask big questions. I go, I know it's a big question, but look, I've had a life where I traveled around, I did all these great things, it was awesome, and I was in a certain town, and I was walking across the street, and somebody hit me while moving. They hit me, and I was injured. People drove by, they drove away, it was really terrible, and eventually somebody called the police, and the ambulance came, and I needed a helicopter to take me out. Now, as that helicopter was coming, the road was barriered off, a drunk driver went through and smashed into the helicopter, making my chances less that I was going to live life. At that moment, I gave up on myself, but I was given grace. I was given an ability to live. And sometimes I give up on myself, and I question why. Why did I go through this? You know, why was my life made hard in certain ways? But in that, I believe there's something more, and I live that. That's what I live. I don't have the option. And so what I really want to know from you is, when did you give up on yourself, and how do you turn that into life? This is how you do it. You take your story, who you are, and put it on someone else. It isn't about power. It isn't about status. It's about, how do I gain power in my story, share it with somebody else, and demand that back. And that is a beautiful thing. So this is what I want you to do. If you have questions about this, I want you to try it. I want you to put yourself out there. Put yourself out there in easy experiences. Watch the F69 course. Watch the Instant Connection course. If you're on YouTube, there's tons of tutorials on this. But go out there and learn to express who you are, for who you are, to the world that you want to communicate with. What we're afraid of by getting hurt has to do with the mask that we wear. We need to get hurt by being us, not by being a fake person. In any case, hopefully that was helpful. Go out there, do it. If you have any questions, email, comment, tag me. All the information's down below. And we'll talk soon, guys. Later.